Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Heather with the Institute of Child Nutrition. I'd like to welcome you to our CACFP webinar series. And as a friendly reminder, please save the date for next month's webinar on Beat the Heat with Cool Eats, which is cold food menu planning. And that's scheduled for Tuesday, June the 17th at 2 o'clock. So today we are talking about self-help spotlight, nurturing your well-being beyond your profession. And during today's webinar, all attendees will be muted. Questions can be asked by typing them in the question box on your screen, and we'll try to answer as many as possible, but not all may be addressed due to time constraints. Please use the Q&A box only for questions for the presenter. And after the webinar, a link to a short survey will appear. Completing this survey helps ICN plan future webinars. Registered individuals will receive a follow-up email within 24 hours containing a reporting link on iLearn, which is ICN's online platform, and the survey link again in case you've missed it the first time. Webinar certificates will be emailed within 24 hours as well. And note that the slide deck won't be shared today. The webinar will only be available in video format within iLearn. And as a reminder, ICN features 2 other webinars. ICN, which focuses on the culinary side of child nutrition, as well as STAR, which is designed for school food nutrition. The content found within the CACFP 101 webinars are designed with family childcare homes and childcare centers as the target audience, and the additional webinars can be found within the iLearn portal. The views and opinions expressed in this webinar are solely those of the presenter and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Institute of Child Nutrition. So by the end of the webinar today, we hope that we'll be able to provide you with some key learning objectives here, recognize the importance and the significance of self-care, and explore activities that support mental, emotional, and physical well-being, and also identify common signs of stress and proactive strategies to manage challenges and enhance overall well-being. Today, joining us, we have Morgan Kelly. Morgan is a provisional licensed professional counselor in the state of Mississippi. She earned her master's in clinical mental health counseling from Mississippi State University in 2023 and her bachelor's in psychology from the University of Mississippi in 2021. After beginning her professional journey into the mental health field, Morgan gained valuable experience from various clinical settings, including community mental health, working with middle school age children, and collegiate counseling. She has worked with young adult and child clients facing anxiety, depression, life transitions, substance use, relationship struggles, and more. Morgan is passionate about fostering a safe, compassionate, and accepting environment for clients in all walks of life and in the LGBTQIA affirming, and is LGBTQIA affirming. Her down-to-earth style is rooted in forming genuine connections, meeting clients exactly where they are, and working to understand their unique needs and personal goals. Embracing a person-centered approach, Morgan strives to empower clients in uncovering and embracing their authentic selves. She draws from a professional skill set that includes evidence-based practices in cognitive behavioral therapy, as well as narrative therapy. It's really a great honor to have Morgan here. She joins us again from the University of Mississippi, which is where we are at the Institute. So I would like to welcome Morgan here. Come on in.
Hi.
Hi.
Good afternoon. I'm pulling up my slides right now. There we go. So today we'll just be talking about nurturing your well-being beyond your profession. As you are in the healthcare profession, you know how difficult it can be to work with clients, but also take care of yourself. And so that will be what this is focused on. Our agenda today is to find a balance to achieve goals. Benefits of a balanced self include stress symptoms, positive coping strategy, time management, and of course the importance of sleep. So starting with finding a balance to achieve our goals, an active process of becoming aware and making choices towards a healthy and fulfilling life. It's a cycle and not a destination. So we'll start by pausing and reassessing values, paying attention to our emotions, being creative and flexible, denormalizing, and then prioritizing. And as you can see, it's a cycle. So we continue to go through the cycle um, to ensure that we find balanced goals. Benefits to a balanced self include decreased physical health problems, so cardiovascular problems, but also headaches and things like that. Improved performance, this can be at work, academic, or physical performance. Improved self-image, obviously, if you feel more balanced, you feel better about yourself. Um, Improved presence and present enjoyment, improved mental stability, and then, of course, you have better clarity of your goals and what constitutes success, which plays into our first part of the agenda. Stress symptoms, so these come in different forms. So starting with your body, I know that when I get anxious, my stomach starts to hurt. When I'm stressed, my stomach hurts. And so stomach pain is a big one, but also feeling sore and stiff. One of my favorite coping skills for whenever you do need to notice stiffness in your body is progressive muscle relaxation, which is where you tense each of your muscle groups for 10 seconds and then release, and you do them all individually. And the more you do that, the better you get at recognizing whenever you are tense. As well as fatigue and headaches. For symptoms with your mind, it could be difficult for you to make decisions, confusion, racing thoughts, memory problems, and then that goes into feelings, which can be feeling overwhelmed or moody, irritable, as well as loneliness and feeling inadequate. And then, of course, behavior as well. Problem sleeping, excessive screen time, isolation, nervous habits. Um, the more you recognize these symptoms, the more stressed you can be. And so by recognizing these symptoms, we can do things to help ourselves to relieve stress. So best way to relieve stress and to avoid becoming stressed is to focus on self-care. So self-care, it's not just another task to complete. It's unique to every individual. It's important to engage in activities that create positive feelings. They improve mental or physical health. For me, these are hobbies. These are doing things that you enjoy. So I enjoy crochet. That's something that I engage in usually daily for me. For other people, it could be taking a walk or going to the gym, or spending time with friends or family. It's all about what makes you feel comfortable and what helps you recharge. Obviously, advocating for yourself. If you are spread thin at work and you can't add anything else to your plate, but your boss asks you to add something, telling them, hey, I don't think I can do that right now, maybe next week. So advocating for yourself, as well as preventative care. So if you know that next week is going to be a really stressful week for you, let's say you have a lot of clients, or you have a presentation that you're going to have to give, and it's going to be stressful, going ahead and building self-care into your week. So if you know that day is going to be stressful, planning to spend time at home afterwards, taking a bath, doing a face mask, cooking yourself dinner, spending time with friends. And this should also be ongoing. There should be a routine for this. It should be daily, weekly, monthly things that you do to improve your self-care. This is one of my favorite things. It's the wellness wheel. And so as you can see, as demonstrated on the wheel, you've got social wellness, emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, intellectual wellness, physical wellness, environmental wellness, financial wellness, and occupational wellness. What's great about this wheel is if you're lacking in any of these areas, it's no longer a wheel. It'll be flat on one side and it won't work. And so what's important is that we feed into each of these aspects of our lives, so that way we feel good and we can do the best that we can do for our jobs, as well as for ourselves. And then, of course, positive coping strategies. So these are just simple ones. These are not actual coping strategy, like the evidence-based ones, like, deep breathing, mindfulness, those types. These are just self-care, eating well, regular exercise, make time for fun, healthy rewards, and managing your time. Social, so positive relationships, communicating with friends, family, as well as communicating with yourself. What do you need in that moment? Asserting boundaries, it's a really hard one. It's a lot easier said than done, but the more that we set boundaries with people and uphold those boundaries, the more comfortable that they'll feel setting boundaries as well. Reaching out to others when you need help. If you're overwhelmed and you need a break or you need support, reaching out to people that you work with or friends or family is a great way of getting that support. As for mind, looking at your perspective, um, are you looking at things in a negative light before you even get there? If you know you don't like test taking and you have a test next week and you're viewing it as this negative thing of I'm going to fail this test, switching your perspective of it. Accepting your own limits, knowing that you're not superhuman, you're a person. We're not robots. We need breaks. We need time to recharge. And so recognizing that, as well as countering negative thoughts. So challenging them. And something I tell my clients is that we're not trying to go immediately to positive whenever we're challenging negative thoughts. Really, we're looking for the most realistic or a neutral response. So if you're thinking, I'm the worst person in the world, instead of thinking that, you can think, you know what? I'm not that bad. Is it positive? Not necessarily, but is it more true than I'm the worst person in the world? Yes. Establishing doable goals, so goals that you can actually achieve. Though it's great to have goals like I'm going to be the president of the United States, um, that might not be doable in this moment. And so establishing something that's doable, like I'm going to advocate for a cause that is really important to me. Being proactive. So once again, this goes in with if you know you're going to have a stressful week or a stressful day, being proactive with that and recognizing when you need to build time in for yourself to take a break, take a breath. As well as spiritual. So clarifying your own values, identifying strengths and weaknesses, looking at positive life philosophies and living up to your own commitments. You can be spiritual without being religious. If my favorite thing to do spiritually is mindfulness, I find mindfulness to be extremely helpful for me. Um, and I practice it by just focusing on one thing that I can see, one thing I can hear, and one thing I can feel. It's great for grounding as well as uh, making sure you're focusing on the here and now instead of the future or the past. Time management, I think this is a big one for all of us. Making sure our goals are SMART, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound, but also being flexible with your own personal deadlines and goals. Becoming aware of and minimizing self-judgment and regret. So a lot of times I tell clients that you can't always put specific deadlines on things like I'm going to write 2 pages of this paper today, because if you don't do that, then you feel worse. Even if you did write a page, you feel worse because you didn't write 2 pages. So making sure you're being flexible with your own personal deadlines and your goals, because you're not perfect, and so you want to be proud of what you can get done. Creating space, making sure that you're not starting too late on something and making it to where it's not possible for you to finish it. Limiting distractions, making sure you're in a quiet area. It's private. Maybe you need to close your door. Maybe you need to build in time in your schedule to make sure no one bothers you while you work on something. Using lists, planners, calendar apps, timers. Um, for me, I love a planner. I like being able to plan out my day hour by hour. I find that really helpful. Not everyone does. Sometimes you just want to put, a timer on and be like, I'm going to finish this in an hour. Whatever works best for you. Boost your mood with music, breaks, and rewards. Um, I love listening to music while I get work done or watching a video while I do things. Usually I work for about 30 minutes on notes and then I give myself 10 minutes of stretching, getting up, walking around, talking to a coworker. And if I finish all my notes for the day, I might leave and get to watch my favorite show. So rewarding yourself. Another one is saying no. So this goes with setting boundaries as well. Saying no when you don't have the time or the energy, the capacity to do something. Just because our boss asks us to do it or a coworker asks for a favor doesn't mean that we have to say yes. Sometimes we need to say no We need to set a boundary and say, I don't have the time for this today, or I don't have the energy for this today. Maybe I can do it tomorrow. But you don't always have to say you can do it tomorrow either. You can just say no. And then, of course, identifying underlying reasons for time management and procrastination concerns. For me, I know that if I let my to-do list get too big, it becomes even more daunting. So I need to tackle things a day at a time. I finish my notes for today on this day, so that way tomorrow I don't have 5 extra notes to do on top of the ones I have already. And then, of course, sleep. Sleep is very important, especially when you're working with others. Getting 6 hours of sleep per night for 12 days was equivalent to the cognitive and physical performance of someone with blood alcohol content of 0.1. Think of how often we get 6 hours of sleep instead of our normal 8 to 9. Um, you're not able to perform at the same level that you would be if you had better sleep. Along with decreased sleep, we see an increase in anxiety, depression, suicide risk, physical health risks, and other things. I know that when I get, a little bit of sleep, and not as much as I normally need, I feel more anxious that day than I do on a normal day. And this is a good quote. It takes a sleepy brain 5 hours to do the work a rested brain can do in 2 to 3 hours. Um, think about how often you're going to work and you're not sleeping as much as you should. One full night of sleep increases motor skill by 20% and accuracy by 39%. And of course, adults learn better between 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so making sure that you're getting, your 8 to 9 hours of sleep or more if you need more. Everyone's different, but my best advice for sleep is to have a good wind down routine. Um, I don't get on my phone, an hour before I'm going to bed. I use that as my wind down. I drink a cup of tea, I sit in my bed, I might read a book if I need to, but normally I just sit and I decompress. I do some mindfulness or some progressive muscle relaxation, and then I lay down and I go to sleep. And I've noticed that ever since I've started a routine, it has helped me get more consistent sleep. And then that is it. But we have time for Q&A, and so if there's any questions, anything I didn't talk about that you'd like to talk about or want answers about, I'm all for. Ah,
Morgan, I feel like you're stepping on my toes about the importance of sleep. I don't do very good with sleep at all. That's crazy. 6 hours of sleep for 12 nights is equivalent to a blood alcohol content of 0.1. Wow. I'm gonna do better about sleeping. I am a scroller. It's not necessarily doom scrolling. I just get on TikTok sometimes and I get to laughing you kind of get into that little, rabbit hole and you realize that you wasted a lot. So what are, I guess, some other things that we can do that will help establish that good routine when it comes to sleep? You were talking about having a wind down routine. What are maybe some other things that we can do?
so obviously having your wind down, for me it's an hour before sleep. Some people do 2 hours. Sometimes you need that time to brush your teeth, wash your face. If you like to have a little snack before you go to bed, do that. I drink a cup of tea because I find it to be helpful with, obviously it's decaffeinated, but calming my body down as well. Some people exercise before sleep. I don't recommend that. It makes me more awake, but some people do because it makes them tired. Um, Obviously, your sleep environment is very important. So a dark, cool room. You don't want to be too hot because it'll cause you to wake up too often, but you also don't want to be too cold. Um, if you sleep with any sort of light, it can impact your sleep, as well as sound. I know sound machines are great, but TVs maybe not as much. Um, what also is important is going to bed around the same time every night and waking up around the same time every day. And then for sleep hygiene, especially, phones really impact your sleep hygiene. They impact, your ability to go to sleep and stay asleep. And so for me, I set time limits on a lot of my apps so that way I'm not on them for longer than 30 minutes to an hour, which is a long time when you think about it.
You have to police yourself, right? We
Yeah.
have we have a few questions here. Okay, well, we're talking about naps here. Christina Chavez says, "What do you think about naps?" I think naps are wonderful, but what do you think, Morgan? What do you think about naps?
Naps can be really good, especially if you didn't sleep well the night before. Um, For a lot of the research I've seen, naps longer than like an hour and a half are not great because they impact your sleep at night. But a lot of people find the benefits in 20 minutes to an hour long nap. They can be very helpful. And for me, I nap at lunchtime. I use my lunch as a little bit of a nap, as a boost. So I find naps to be very helpful. And if your body feels like it needs rest, then you probably should listen to your body.
And we have another question about time or nap time here or sleeping. Is there a from Baker B? Is there a way to adjust one's circadian rhythms to match with job times?
Hmm. That one I'd have to do a little bit more research on. I would
Okay,
think that, hmm, I don't know. That's a
that's a
good
good
question.
question. Probably would take lots of practice too. You'd have to get into a routine for a while to be
You'd
able
have to do a routine
to
for a
match your
while.
job. Yeah, discipline, Baker B, discipline. Um, let's see. Now we're just going to switch gears here, and someone, Kayla San Angelo, wants to know, how do you tell people no without feeling selfish or bad?
That's a really hard one. So I work a lot with my clients on that, and it's something that I've worked on. Um, for me, I think about how often people have said no to me and how I felt. Normally, if someone says no to me and they have usually, I mean, I'll take them at face value. They don't even have to have a reason. If they say no, then they obviously can't do that at that moment. And so I use that whenever I'm saying no myself. I don't get mad when other people say no. And so it's okay for me to say no sometimes too. And even if people do get frustrated and they do get upset, it's important to recognize, are these people upset because I said no, or is there something else going on? And so giving them that opportunity to express their, frustration or their upset, but also standing firm and saying no. And if you do still feel bad after doing that, one of my best ways to make myself feel better is writing it down. Why am I so upset that they're upset with me? Because at the end of the day, we all get upset with people, but how much are you going to let that control you is the biggest question. Are you going to spread yourself then because you don't want to hurt someone else's feelings?
It's that's really good. My grandma says it's easy to say no. You look to the left and you look to the right and you just keep doing it. So
Or you can do
I
that. I
will
like that.
I will say that it's important that we acknowledge the humanity in each other and realize that sometimes it's not quit taking everything personal. The Q-tip theory,
Mhm.
that I can understand where maybe saying no when you really want to without them thinking that it's a personal choice against them. So we have a few more questions. We have time for questions. So if you guys want to put some in here, you're welcome to do that. We have someone from Shawana Smith. It says, how do you cope with a coworker gives you a task and then asks you to stop and start another task?
Mm. Depends on if this
So,
is a coworker or your boss. If it's your
supervisor,
boss,
right?
then I suggest you just go ahead and start the other task. If it's a coworker, explaining to the coworker, I haven't finished this first task. If you would like me to start on this next task right now, I can, but just to let you know, I haven't finished the other one. Or if you don't have time for both tasks, asking them, hey, I've started on this other task. You've asked me to do this. Which one do you want me to do? Because I can't do both. So I need an answer. And it's really hard to be firm that way, but also it's important to set boundaries, especially at work, because you are human. You're not a robot. We're not AI. We can't just pop work out, you know, in 10 seconds. And so letting them know that I can't do both of these at the same time, or which one is more important to you. Because I'll hop on whatever task is most important and finish it right now, but I need to know which one you want first.
Good, prioritizing what's the most important. You got a lot on your plate, so tell me what I need to take off or what I need to add on to. That's good, Morgan. Stacy Millett says, I am a people pleaser. I am too, Stacy. I
Join
feel
the
you.
club.
Right. I'm a card carrying member. How do I shift my mindset from being a people pleaser?
Now, this is kind of like with sleep where you need the discipline. Um, for me and for my clients, what has helped is realizing that you cannot be everything for everyone all at once. Um, because it's not helpful for you. Do you want to live your whole life, taking care of other people and never, prioritizing yourself, or is that going to build resentment? And so we start by how I have clients start is by keeping a list of all of the times you wanted to say no, but you said yes instead. And then after we do that, their homework is next to say no once to one person with no explanation. None. I don't care who you say no to. You can say no to getting a milkshake at Sonic. It's up to you. But saying no without an explanation, because not every no needs an explanation. Sometimes we can just say no. And the more we do that and we build that up and we continue to keep our list of all the times we wanted to say no, you start to realize how much you're spreading yourself thin for other people and you're not doing things for yourself. If you really needed to go home that day and take a nap, but your friend asked you to go, to Walmart with them and you didn't feel like saying no because you didn't want to say no to them, you thought it would hurt their feelings, you're not getting the nap you needed, and maybe you had more work to do that night and you're even more tired. And so we've got to realize when do we prioritize ourselves? It's kind of the big thing.
Say no without needing an explanation. That's really good. Is Baker B has another question. Is there a way to deal with a coworker who acts like every time they need help, it's an emergency and gets angry when you can't immediately go help them?
Oh,
That sounds like a conversation that needs to be had. So,
it does. It's
maybe how can we start that conversation for her, Morgan?
same way I would work with
Everything's
my
an emergency.
same way I worked with my middle school clients who thought everything was a crisis, starting with asking, what is an emergency to you? What do you feel like constitutes as an emergency? And when they say what they say, think is an emergency, you say, this is what I think is an emergency. And right now, I'm working on, whatever I have to do. And I'm sorry that you're frustrated, but I cannot help you right now. If you get back to me in an hour, I can come help. I think the best thing to do is giving people time limits. This is what I do with negative thoughts as well. If I have to put a pin in a negative thought and come back to it later, I tell it, hey, I'm going to come back to you in an hour, or I'm going to come back to you at 2 o'clock. And then I come back to it. The importance is coming back to it. So with this coworker saying, hey, you might believe this is an emergency right now, but I'm doing something. I will get back to you in an hour and help you out. Or I'll get back to you at 2 o'clock. Y'all saw the power go out. But giving them a
Yes.
time limit. So then maybe they're not as frustrated because they're like, okay, this person's going to come help me at 2. If you feel like you can't help them though, telling them that, being like, look, I know you're frustrated and I'm sorry that I can't help you, but I've got a lot on my own plate right now. And so I'll get back to you.
Sounds like communication is the main key factor there.
And it's really hard.
It is. It's very hard. Hi, Michelle. Michelle sent a message in that says, how can a person stop feeling overwhelmed at work?
Oh, that's a good one. Looking at your workload. If your workload you feel like is too much or not balanced, talking to your boss about taking a few things off of your plate. If that's not feasible, breaking them down. If you have, I'm gonna do an astronomical number here, 5 projects due, and you've only got one day to do them, breaking them down into smaller pieces, doing one thing at a time. Once you've done that, rewarding yourself with a break or rewarding yourself with, I'm going to go get a coffee and take a breather and I'm going to come back and work on it. Breaking things up into smaller parts makes them more manageable. But obviously, if your workload is too much, sometimes talking to your boss about, hey, I need 1 or 2 things taken off of my plate, that's totally okay. You're recognizing that you're just human, you're just a person, and hopefully your boss respects that. If not, then it's okay to also look into other workplaces.
Amen, Morgan. We tell people all the time, go find your happy. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. If you feel like you're overwhelmed and you can know this no longer fits your needs, then it is imperative that you go find your happy somewhere else. I will say that the University of Mississippi and the Institute of Child Nutrition really strives to have a really great work-life balance. And
Mhm.
anytime I've ever had an issue where I felt like I was overwhelmed with things that were on my plate or with my projects, I've always went to my supervisor, and we just evaluated everything that was going on. And sometimes it's best to get rid of the low hanging fruit, like the things that are really easy to get off your plate, because sometimes if you remove some of the things on your plate that are really easy to get rid of, your plate doesn't seem so full. So definitely talking to your supervisor and just explaining your feelings, and then reevaluating your purpose and your mission. Um,
Sometimes talking it out helps make it feel less overwhelming as well. Yeah, being able to talk it out.
yeah. Michelle commented again that she doesn't want to feel like a failure, so she feels like she has to get it done. And I can understand that too. But again, communication, it seems like a lot of our things can be eliminated or improved. I don't want to say
Mhm.
eliminated because they're still going to be there, but can be improved if we just communicate a little more. Um, Louise Vala, and I hope that I pronounced your name correct, and if not, I apologize. How do you deal with a coworker's bad mood? Especially if that coworker is above you.
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, I actually had a friend whose supervisor was always in a bad mood. And the best way that she kind of tackled that was protecting her own peace. So if you know
Mm,
the person is in a bad mood and you know that their office is right across from yours, keeping your door closed. That is totally okay. Yes, we want to keep, doors open sometimes to invite conversation and invite camaraderie between, coworkers, but sometimes you need that space. And so if you need to close your door to avoid having to talk to someone who's in a bad mood, do that. If you feel that they are taking a lot of it out on you, it's okay to talk to them about it too and be like, "Hey, look, I see that you're frustrated. I see that are maybe not in the best mood today. However, what you said hurt my feelings, or well, I feel like you are taking it out on me." The most important thing whenever you're addressing things like this is to use I statements. We don't want it to sound accusatory, so you don't want to go to them and say, "You're in a bad mood and you're making me mad." Instead it's, "I see that you're frustrated. I see that you've got a lot going on. What can I do to help?" Or what can we talk about that will make you feel better? Using your I statements to make sure they don't feel attacked.
that empowers you too by using your I statements. I mean, you're controlling the situation then. That's
Mhm.
good stuff. We still have some time for a few more questions. I have one question left, and this just talks about feeling, oh, got some more that popped in. Um, so this is that Sonia says that she feels guilty about napping. So we're back to sleeping, but let's just talk about like guilt in general. How do you overcome that feeling of guilt? We all have it. I feel guilty a lot of things, whether it's, parenting, what I should have done better. How do you just get over the whole that guilt trap?
First, differentiating between guilt and shame. They feel similar,
Mm.
but they're not the same. And so are you feeling guilty or are you feeling shameful? When you've determined that, you know, talking about why maybe you feel guilty, and maybe why is not the best question, but what about it is making you feel guilty? Do you feel like you should be doing something else? Do you feel like napping is a waste of time and you need to be productive? Do you think that you made the wrong decision as a parent because your child got upset with you? What about it is making you feel guilty? Starting there. And then once we've, figured out what it is about it, talking about what about that did you need? Like why did you need to do that? So what caused you to need a nap? You were tired. Were you going to be able to do your best work if you were tired? No, you needed that rest. Did the decision that you made for your kid, did it upset them? Yes, but was it the right decision? Yes. But we can also tackle things with maybe it wasn't the right decision. Okay, well then why was it not the right decision? And we apologize. Or maybe I did need a nap, but my nap turned into 3 hours. That happens, recognizing that once again, you're human, you're gonna make mistakes. That's okay. You know, yes, we feel guilty, but also, what would you say to a friend who is going through the same experience? You wouldn't be nearly as hard on them. You wouldn't make them feel bad for something like that. You would probably be like, "Hey, if you slept for 3 hours, you probably needed it." hey, you told your kid no in the moment and you recognize now that that wasn't the right answer, but you've already said it, so what can you do to fix it now? A lot of
That's
guilt is
good.
just figuring out what are the motivations behind the guilt? What's that underlying feeling?
That's really good. I have a really good friend that anytime I start harping on myself or I still start feeling bad or feeling guilty, she'll say, "Hey, don't be mean to my friend."
I
So
love that.
so think about that. Don't be mean to yourself and don't be mean. Even if you have to look into the mirror and say, stop being mean, you've got this. So guilt
Yeah.
and shame, determining what we need to determining the root of that.
Hmm.
We have another question here from Yesa Acosta. She says, how can we control stress eating? Wow, I stress eat. That's good. That's really good. Like I'm
It's
a
a good question.
comfort food. That's a really good question. So Morgan, do you want to
Yeah.
address it?
So stress eating, of course, everyone deals with stress differently. For some people, they don't feel hungry at all. For others, they eat, to kind of combat with that. A lot of that is you're wanting that kind of dopamine that you get, especially from sweets, right? Like sweets give us that little bit of dopamine. It makes us feel good, makes us happy in the moment. And so when we feel ourselves getting overwhelmed with stress, thinking about checking in with our bodies, are we actually hungry? If we are actually hungry, eat. Like that's okay. It's not stress eating if you're just eating a meal. However, if you check in with your body and you recognize, I'm not hungry right now, I'm just stressed and I need something to do, finding an alternative activity. So if you have a hobby, like I said at the beginning, I like to crochet. So I'll crochet and it's really good for anxiety because it's repetitive hand movements.
Mm,
Painting, taking a walk, going to the gym. If you have a friend who's available to talk, talking to your friend about what you're stressed about. If you're at work and they've got a box of donuts outside, instead of going for the box of donuts, picking up a book, reading something, going on a walk. Sometimes we need to get on our phones and go on TikTok. That's okay. Set a time limit for yourself so that way you're not on it too long. The most important thing is finding an alternative activity that you find enjoyable, that still helps you get out some of that stress, but doesn't necessarily make you feel as bad as maybe stress eating does.
that's good. That's good. Um, we have a question here from Allison Burgess, and so this might be a little twofold question.
Mhm.
She said that our nutrition department would like to provide a training for our kitchen staff on self-care, but we want to keep it interactive and fun. Do you
Mm.
have any ideas for group activities or games or sessions that we can do with them at a future training to share info or activities on this topic? We want them to take care of themselves so that they continue to do the jobs that they do, which is taking care of the wonderful meals for all the children we serve in our program. So, any type of fun, interactive activities that you can think of that would help share about self care.
Let me think of some. So I know the wellness wheel that I talked about, there is actually a printout, like a worksheet that people in my department have used to kind of fill out and realize where we're lacking on wellness. And so that's really helpful. But also thinking about things like group yoga. Yoga is a great way, it's a great self-care option, and anyone can do yoga. It can be beginners, just stretches. Yoga is not always those difficult poses that we see. Same goes for mindfulness. Mindfulness is one of those things that you can do anywhere with anyone. And though it can be hard at first to kind of keep your mind from straying, it can be very helpful. Even getting everyone outside, going on a walk. That's a part of self-care. It's important to, engage your body, to help with stress and other things like that. Um, if I think of any others though, because I'm gonna ask around to my coworkers because a lot of them have led other like presentations and groups and stuff. And I can give that information to Heather and maybe she can post that somewhere for everyone to
Yeah,
use.
would love to. I would love to do that. One that came to my mind is sometimes it's really hard to just say I statements. So you
Mm.
guys could create I statements and switch those around and practice talking those out to each other and role playing. So that's a good one. Um, let's see. Stephanie Deshay said that something she's found helpful for team building was making fairy houses out of natural items. I love those little fairy
That
items.
sounds
Those little
really fun.
or even planting. I know Liz Dixon, one of our colleagues here at the Institute, she is really involved with animal shelter, a local animal shelter, and they have pet days where they could bring in dogs and they let you interact with them and pet them. And a lot of people have found that to be really beneficial for self-care. So there's lots of things that you could look into, but definitely, Allison, shoot me an email and I will get those ideas out to you and see what we can come up with. Um, I I think that is all of the questions that we have right now. I'm looking at them. Oh, Baker B says she doesn't want to monopolize the questions, but she has one more. If
Oh
you
yeah, go ahead.
would like to answer it. If you're really focused on something, is there a way to handle the annoyance or stress of being interrupted? I
Ooh,
don't like being interrupted either when I'm super
that's a good
focused.
one.
So,
If you have an office that has a door that can close, something that I've done for myself because I'm a talker, and if someone comes into my office, I will talk. I will not do my work. I will talk. I have printed out a note on my door that says, please do not knock or enter unless it's an emergency. I will talk to you and not do my work. And I've taped it on the outside of my door, and I've been left alone. I've actually had coworkers come out when someone else is about to knock on my door and be like, and they're like, hey, leave her alone, she's doing her work. Another great way is having headphones. Look, I know some people are, iffy about headphones, but putting headphones in, especially if you're in a shared workspace, is kind of that, you know, without saying I don't want anyone to talk to me, I don't want anybody to talk to me. So leave me alone. You don't even have to have anything playing. You can just have your headphones in and everyone will hopefully leave you alone. Also addressing people if they do keep coming in with interruptions and saying, hey, I recognize that you would like my attention or you would like to talk right now. I can't do that. I'm trying to finish this, project or whatever it is you're working on. I would like if you could come back in a few hours and we can talk then. I need to get this done first. Most important part is expressing your needs, what you need in that moment. If people keep coming to interrupt you, telling them, I can't do this right now, I'm trying to finish my work. It's okay to advocate for yourself and what you need in the moment.
good. That's really good. Something that we do here at the Institute is we'll block off time on our schedule. So it's sort
Mm.
of like a block off calendar to where we ask that you do not disturb. We do Zoom chat a lot. And in the Zoom chat, you can put on your the header above it, please do not disturb in the between the hours of such and so and so. So that's something to also consider. And I know that if you're in an open area to where you really don't have an office, those the earbuds and the headphones do give off a don't approach type of vibe. I've been in conferences before where I've put in headphones and I've walked and a lot of people uh especially the vendors, they won't approach you if you have earbuds in, and it wasn't intentional, but I was like, oh, this works great. So if you if you have earbuds or headphones, you could potentially try that too. But that looks like all the questions. I've cleaned up the question and chats here. So I think that's all the questions that we have for today. Thanks, Morgan. This has just been so amazing. And you're such a breath of fresh air and you have so much knowledge. And I just really appreciate you and the university, the counseling center at Ole Miss had taken the opportunity to talk to us. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so it's really important that you do some self-care and just do some self-reflection and check in and just know that it's okay to not be okay. And wherever you are, if you need help or you need someone to talk to, reach out. If you don't know who to talk to, reach out to me. I'll get you in with the right contacts and be a non-judgmental listening ear. So again, thank you so much, Morgan. And wherever you guys are, be kind, be safe, feed those babies. We appreciate everything that you do. You all have a great day. Thanks.
Thank y'all.